worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanzeeba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden-Xi met for hours and agreed to pick up the phone for any urgent concerns. Biden says still considers Xi a dictator. Trump abandons his bid to move his New York hush money criminal case from state to federal court. U.S. Capitol Police clash with protesters calling for Gaza war ceasefire. Biden to Netanyahu, occupying Gaza would be a big mistake. Representative George Santos won't seek re-election after scathing ethics report cites evidence of law-breaking. US imposes new sanctions over Russian oil price cap violations, Kremlin influence in the Balkans. Family of 4 found dead at Fort Stewart, U.S. Army base in Georgia. Mother of 6-year-old who shot Virginia teacher is sentenced to 21 months in prison. IDF raids Gaza hospital for second day. Syria's president grants amnesty, reduced sentences on anniversary of coup that put father in power. Australia edged South Africa to set up final with India. And Rafael Nadal will reveal his comeback plans soon after missing nearly all of 2023. You are listening to Headlines, now news in detail. President Joe Biden and China's Xi Jinping emerged Wednesday from their first face-to-face meeting in a year, vowing to stabilize their fraught relationship and showcasing modest agreements to combat illegal fentanyl and re-establish military communications. But there were still deep differences on economic competition and global security threats. The most assuring takeaway from the meeting for Biden was that if either man had a concern, we should pick up the phone and call one another and we will take the call. That's important progress, he said in a news conference following the talks. Another positive sign, Xi signaled later Wednesday that China would send the US new pandas, just a week after 3 from the Smithsonian National Zoo were returned to China, much to the dismay of Americans. There were only 4 left in the United States at the Atlanta Zoo, and their loan agreement expires next year. The two leaders spent 4 hours together at a bucolic Northern California state in meetings, a working lunch, and a garden stroll intent on showing the world that while they are global economic competitors, they are not locked in a winner-take-all face-off. Planet Earth is big enough for the two countries to succeed, Xi told Biden. US President told Xi, I think it's paramount that you and I understand each other clearly, leader to leader, with no misconceptions of miscommunications. We have to ensure competition does not veer into conflict. President Joe Biden said after a summit with Xi Jinping Wednesday that he still considers the Chinese president a dictator after he sparked fury from Beijing by making the comparison earlier this year. Well, look, he is a dictator in the sense that he is a guy who is running a country, a communist country, that's based on a form of government totally different than ours, Biden said at the end of a news conference when a reporter asked if he would still use the term to describe Xi Jinping. Donald Trump has given up on his months-long fight to move his New York hush money criminal case to a federal court, agreeing to proceed in a state court that he contends is very unfair to him. The former president's lawyer said in court papers Wednesday that they were dropping an appeal that sought to have a Manhattan federal court take control of the case, which is one of 4 criminal indictments against him. The case is scheduled to go to trial in a state court on March 25, 2024, though the judge has suggested that could change given Trump's busy legal calendar. Trump's lawyers first asked to move the case to federal court in May, arguing that some of Trump's alleged conduct amounted to official duties because it occurred in 2017 while he was president. That included checks he purportedly wrote while sitting in the Oval Office. They appealed in June after U.S. District Judge Alvin K. Hillerstein ruled that Trump had failed to meet a high legal bar to move the case. U.S. law allows criminal prosecutions to be moved from a state to federal court if they involve actions taken by federal government officials as part of their official duties. Hillerstein ruled that the hush money case involved a personal matter, not presidential duties. Trump's lawyers gave notice that they were dropping the appeal a day before a deadline to file paperwork with the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals stating why they felt Hillerstein's ruling should be overturned. Police in riot gear have clashed with demonstrators calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Gaza war outside the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee in Washington, D.C. Protesters, many wearing shirts that read "Ceasefire Now," linked arms in front of the DNC building's entrance near the Capitol on Wednesday night, where some sang, "Which side are you on?" Officers pushed and pulled the protesters to try to remove them from the area, at one point shoving one protester down a staircase leading to the entrance. Police also used pepper spray and fired projectiles containing chemical irritants. Demonstrator Danny Noble said people came to the DNC to peacefully call on Democratic Party leadership to support a ceasefire in Gaza. Instead, we were met by police pulling on folks that are disabled or have chronic illnesses, pulling people to the ground in riot gear, Noble said. It is shameful the way that non-violent protesters and members of our community were met with violence tonight. It is absolutely shameful, he added. Capitol Police said approximately 150 people were illegally and violently protesting. It said 6 officers were treated for injuries, ranging from cuts to being pepper sprayed and punched. President Joe Biden has said he had made it clear to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that occupying Gaza would be a big mistake and that the two-state solution was the only way to bring an end to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. I made it clear to the Israelis, I think it's a big mistake for them to think they are going to occupy Gaza and maintain Gaza, Biden told a news conference in San Francisco. I don't think that works. Netanyahu said earlier this month that after the war, Gaza would have to be demilitarized, de-radicalized, and rebuilt, and that Israel would need to find a civilian government to govern the enclave, which has been run by Hamas since 2006. The Israeli leader said there was no plan to occupy Gaza, although many consider it an occupied territory already because Israel has full control of its borders, airspace, and territorial waters despite having formally withdrawn its forces and settlers in 2005. Speaking as the Israeli military continued its raid on Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital, Biden said he had also discussed with Israeli leaders the need to be incredibly careful in its actions at the hospital, under which Israel says the Palestinian armed group Hamas had built its military headquarters. Hospital officials and Hamas, which controls Gaza, deny the claim. More than 11,300 Palestinians have been killed since Israel began bombarding the besieged enclave on October 7 after Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, killing about 1,200 people and taking more than 200 captive. The House Ethics Committee, in a scathing report Thursday, said it has amassed overwhelming evidence of law-breaking by Republican Representative George Santos of New York that has been sent to the Justice Department, concluding flatly that he cannot be trusted after a months-long investigation into his conduct. Shortly after the panel's report was released, Santos blasted it in a tweet on X as a politicized smear, but said he would not be seeking re-election to a second term. He gave no indication he would step aside before his term ends next year, vowing to pursue his conservative values in my remaining time in Congress. But a renewed effort to expel him from the House was quickly launched. The House could vote on his expulsion as soon as it returns from the Thanksgiving holiday later this month. The panel said that Santos knowingly caused his campaign committee to file false or incomplete reports with the Federal Election Commission, used campaign funds for personal purposes, and engaged in violations of the Ethics in Government Act as it relates to financial disclosure statements filed with the House. The ethics panel's report also detailed Santos' lack of cooperation with its investigation and how he evaded straightforward requests for information. A family of 4 was found dead on Wednesday in their home of Georgia's Fort Stewart in one of the U.S. Army base's housing units, officials said Thursday. The deceased are one female soldier, her male spouse, and their 2 children, Fort Stewart announced on X. Their identities will not be released at this time due to next of kin notification and privacy. Fort Stewart Military Police arrived at the family's home on Wednesday at around 2 p.m. to contact the soldier after her unit made requests for a welfare check. They found the family unresponsive and pronounced them dead at around 5:30 p.m. Law enforcement said the incident was isolated and there is no remaining threat to the base, located about 40 miles southwest of Savannah. The Department of the Army Criminal Investigation Division is investigating the incident and said it cannot provide additional information at this time. In 2019, 3 soldiers were killed at Fort Stewart when their tank overturned during an overnight training exercise. Last year, a soldier was killed in a helicopter incident at the post's airfield. The mother of a 6-year-old student who shot his first-grade teacher in Virginia has been sentenced to nearly 2 years in prison. Deja Taylor was sentenced Wednesday to 21 months in prison for using marijuana while owning a firearm. Taylor's son used her gun when he shot Abigail Zwerner in January at Richneck Elementary School in Newport News, prosecutors said. He fired a 9mm handgun while Zwerner was sitting at the reading table in their first-grade classroom, officials said. This was not an accidental shooting, Newport News Police Chief Steve Drew said at the time. Zwerner was shot in her left hand and upper chest. She had multiple operations and spent nearly 2 weeks in the hospital. No one else was hurt in the shooting. Even while she was wounded, Zwerner led her first-grade students to safety. Drew said he believed she saved lives. Nearly 3 months after the shooting, Zwerner filed a $40 million lawsuit against school administrators, alleging that they ignored warnings from faculty members and other students who believed the boy had a gun at school the day of the shooting and posed a threat. We will be back after a short break. Till then, stay with us. This world continuously revolving around various events. Every minute, every second, something is happening somewhere around the globe, and you want to get connected to that event or to that specific moment. Here we come, Millennium News Hour, to get you connected with top USA and international trending news, which includes local news, political news, world news, business news, health and science related news, entertainment news, sports news, and so on. Millennium News 24 is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV, and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia, available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BT Network, and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with Millennium News Hour to get the world news on your fist. Welcome back to Millennium News Hour. Now it's time for global updates. Israeli forces remained inside Al-Shifa, the Gaza Strip's main hospital, after storming it for a second time in 24 hours, Israeli officials say. According to Palestinian reports, the Israel Defense Forces conducted a second raid on the hospital. The IDF says it discovered AK-47s, hand grenades, military uniforms, and a laptop with a photo of a kidnapped Israeli soldier on it in the hospital. Yehudit Weiss, a hostage abducted from her home by Hamas during the October 7 attack, was found dead in a structure adjacent to Al-Shifa Hospital, the IDF said in a statement today. Video shared after yesterday's raid does not appear to show definitive evidence that a Hamas command center exists beneath the hospital, a claim that Israeli officials have repeatedly made and Hamas and doctors at the hospital have forcefully denied. President Joe Biden has said that he didn't believe the Israel-Hamas war would end until there is a two-state solution. The remark came after he was asked about setting a deadline around U.S. support for Israel in the conflict. 3 gunmen opened fire at a crossing in Jerusalem, injuring 7 people before they were shot dead by officers, police said today. Israeli officials also said they were opening an investigation into crimes committed during Hamas' October 7 attack, including allegations of sexual violence. The U.S. Treasury on Thursday imposed a new round of sanctions on firms and ships that used American service providers to carry Russian crude oil in violation of the multinational price cap, and imposed another set of sanctions on a group of Balkan people and firms tied to Kremlin influence in the region. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control imposed sanctions on 3 United Arab Emirates-based firms and blocked 3 ships that used U.S. service providers to carry Russian crude oil above the $60 price cap. The sanctions block access to U.S. property and bank accounts and prevent the targeted people and companies from doing business with Americans. The actions on the ships blacklist them from transporting goods with U.S. service providers. The U.S., along with the EU countries in the Group of 7 and Australia, imposed a $60 a barrel limit last year on what Russia could charge for its oil. The cap is designed to deprive the Kremlin of revenue to fund its war in Ukraine, forcing the Russian government either to sell its oil at a discount or find a costly alternative shipping network. Also announced Thursday was a set of sanctions imposed on 8 people and 6 entities across the Balkans, from Bosnia to North Macedonia, accused of corruption and enabling Russian malign influence in the region. Syria's president issued a decree granting amnesty and reducing sentences for several categories of crime committed prior to Thursday. His office and state media reported no reason was given for the amnesty, but it came on the anniversary of the 1970 coup that brought the father and predecessor of President Bashar Assad to power. Assad has issued similar amnesties since the country's deadly conflict that has killed 500,000 people began in March 2011. The decree grants a complete pardon for misdemeanor convictions and people serving prison sentences who have reached the age of 70 or those who have incurable diseases. It said that those who were sentenced to death will have their sentences commuted to life in prison and those who were sentenced to life in prison will end up serving 20 years. The decree did not include an amnesty for the crimes of weapons smuggling or crimes resulting in deaths. On Wednesday, French judicial authorities issued international arrest warrants for Assad, his brother, and two army generals for alleged complicity in war crimes and crimes against humanity, lawyers for Syrian victims said. They included a 2013 chemical attack on rebel-held Damascus suburbs. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,716.55. The NYSE Composite is decreased by 48.47 points or 0.31%. Tokyo stock close price is 33,424.41. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 95.29 points or 0.28%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,050.93. The Shanghai index is decreased by 21.91 points or 0.71%. Hong Kong stock close price is 17,832.82. The Hang Seng index is decreased by 246.18 points or 1.36%. Bombay stock close price is 65,982.48. The Sensex index is increased by 306.55 points or 0.47%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Australia sealed their place in Sunday's final of the 50-over World Cup against India following a nervy 3-wicket victory against South Africa in the second semi-final on Thursday. Australia bowled out South Africa for a below par 212 despite David Miller's defiant 101, but the chase was not as straightforward as Pat Cummins and his team would have liked. Travis Head led Australia's rollicking start before a mid-innings wobble put the 5-time champions in a spot of bother. South Africa did not let big partnerships bloom, but Australia eventually reached the target with 16 balls to spare, with Steve Smith and Josh English providing useful cameos. Rafael Nadal is sure he will be returning to competition after missing nearly all of 2023 with a hip injury that required surgery. And now he says he will be revealing his comeback plans soon. Nadal wrote Thursday on social media, "I confirmed yesterday I will be back," and punctuated that message with a smiling emoji. Stay tuned. He continued in the Instagram post, which included a photograph of him about to hit a backhand. He said that in the coming days he will decide and announce with my team when and where everyone can expect to see him in action. Next season begins in late December with the year's first major tournament, the Australian Open, scheduled to begin main draw matches on January 14. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. Before finishing today's news, let's hear out the headlines again. Biden-Xi met for hours and agreed to pick up the phone for any urgent concerns. Biden says still considers Xi a dictator. Trump abandons his bid to move his New York hush money criminal case from state to federal court. U.S. Capitol Police clash with protesters calling for Gaza war ceasefire. Biden to Netanyahu, occupying Gaza would be a big mistake. Representative George Santos won't seek re-election after scathing ethics report cites evidence of law-breaking. US imposes new sanctions over Russian oil price cap violations, Kremlin influence in the Balkans. Family of 4 found dead at Fort Stewart, US Army base in Georgia. Mother of 6-year-old who shot Virginia teacher is sentenced to 21 months in prison. IDF raids Gaza hospital for second day. Syria's president grants amnesty, reduced sentences on anniversary of coup that put father in power. Australia edged South Africa to set up final with India. And Rafael Nadal will reveal his comeback plans soon after missing nearly all of 2023. That's all for today. Keep watching Millennium News Hour for latest news update. To stay updated, like our Facebook page, subscribe our YouTube channel and visit our website. Our website address is www.millenniumnews24.com. Millennium News 24 is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jagu TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jagu BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all the latest news worldwide. Thank you.